I walked through the streets of Ramadi a couple of days ago without body armor. That city turned around. 95% reduction in violence because the Sunni sheikhs and tribes are with us now against al-Qaeda. That's going great. The sectarian violence, much less well resolved so far, but at least we've put a bit of a cap or a lid on it with our greater troop strength.
That was Brookings Institution analyst Michael O'Hanlon on this program last week. Then he co-wrote an op-ed piece for the New York Times on Monday titled, "A War We Might Just Win." It set off a firestorm of criticism. Is it possible that we're so used to failure that we simply can't admit the possibility of success? In Baghdad, CNN correspondent Arwa Damon is with us. CNN military consultant Brigadier General David Grange, U.S. Army retired, is in Chicago. And with me in the studio is former Assistant Secretary of Defense Lawrence Korb, now with the Center for American Progress. Let me start with you here in the studio. You don't buy it that this is getting better and that this could be won.
I don't buy it because even in the O'Hanlon-Pollock piece, which set off this firestorm, people said, you know, these were critics of the war. No, they supported the invasion. They supported the surge. The next thing is the whole purpose of the surge is to get the Iraqis to make the political compromises necessary to stop the violence. They're nowhere near it. Even Mike and Ken in their article admit that there's no political progress. The whole idea of the surge assumed that if you got things under control, the Iraqis would make political progress. If things are under control, why aren't they making it? Secretary Gates, on his way back from the Middle East, said, we had no idea how tough it would be for them. Where have they been? That's the real problem there.
So because you're saying because there's no political progress, it doesn't matter if there's military progress,
Yeah.
It's going nowhere.
That's right. I don't buy how much military progress. I think they gave us a selective snapshot of, you know, how much military progress. But even if you assume that, then why is there no political progress? I'm also concerned that we're basically making common cause with Sunni insurgents who don't support the government of Maliki. So in a sense, you're arming people who are opposed to the government in Iraq.
I want to get back to that, but first let's look at some numbers here. U.S. fatalities in Iraq. Look at how the numbers have changed. April, 104, May, 126, June, 101. July, 79, not a gigantic drop, but a real drop. General Grange, when you look at these numbers, what do you think is happening? Are we really making progress? Is this winnable now? Can we talk about that?
Well, I think that there is a bit of a defeatist attitude out there because of past engagements our nation's been involved in. But I do think there's some progress, and I say that because of my interaction with commanders in different areas. So it's not a snapshot, but different areas throughout Iraq that talk about the troop morale, they believe in the mission, they think there's progress, the attitude of the population in their locale, how they correspond and give information to our military, the integration of some of the Iraqi units are indicators, but numbers of deaths is an indicator, but it's not finite, and I personally don't like to use that as a major indicator.
Arwa, you're in Baghdad. Last week you said there was not much of a sense on the street that things were getting a lot better. Do you have any greater sense this week?
Well, look, there's been a certain amount of optimism that spilled over from Iraq's win in the Asia Cup last Sunday, but much of that has really dissipated. I mean, Iraqis still have yet to see any sign of progress. They're living without the basic necessities of life. Very little power, no water, and also if we're going to be talking about numbers, the number of Iraqi casualties and the number of casualties amongst the Iraqi security forces actually went up for the month of July, not down.
So, Lawrence, let me come back to this, though. You can't measure, obviously, a war by saying, if we've actually won, then we can say it's good. It's all about some progress. Do you see no progress in this war?
No, I don't. In fact, if you go back, you take a look at July's casualties, for example. The casualties in July, American casualties, even though they were lower than the previous 3 months, are higher than July of 2006, July of 2005. And as just been pointed out, the life of Iraqis is getting worse, not getting better. So that's the progress you should be looking for. Look, until the Maliki government makes the political compromises necessary to develop an Iraq that people are willing to serve, willing to fight and die for, doesn't make any difference. We're going to turn over some of these areas, supposedly, after we pacify them, to the Iraqi security forces. They're nowhere near where they should be. I mean, you know, General Dempsey pointed out in, you know, Bakuba, we wanted 11,500 to show up. 1,000 came. And even Mike and Ken's piece said the police are nowhere near where they need to be. They will never be that till you make the political compromises. Look, if you were willing to send another couple 100,000 more Americans, stay there for 10 years, and could be guaranteed at the end of that time you'd have security forces, you know, that would be loyal to the government, have a government make the political compromises, maybe there's hope. We don't have that many troops. This surge, whether we like it or not, is going to end next spring unless the president wants to go to a draft.
Well, General, a lot of people here I've heard raise this notion, particularly military families. They've said, look, Lawrence, and all deference here, that is a big part of the problem. Too many people saying, here's everything that's going wrong, and ultimately that's demoralizing and difficult for any army. Do you buy that, or do you think it's not about that?
Well, I do buy it. It bothers me as well. You know, reports on the Iraqi army, it's amazing. You look at some of the ones that are doing very well now, and the integration of Kurd and Sunni in these particular formations. I look back at the United States Army when we couldn't integrate some of our demographics into our army until into or after World War II. And yet we criticize the speed of some of this integration of people that have some very big prejudices against each other. Yes, the political process will make the decision, but the biggest enabler is a secure and safe environment so that people can get on with their life. And I think there's progress there. I am optimistic about it because, again, of the commitment of some of our people, and it'll force, I think the people will force some of the change with the political process. I'm talking about the Iraqi people. So I think it affects the troop morale right now, and they're going to go ahead and do well no matter what we say back here, and that's the honor of it all.
And Arwa, briefly, the last word goes to you. If you walked onto the streets of Baghdad today and you said this war is winnable, we can move toward a stable Iraq, what would people say to you?
I think they would actually probably start laughing at this point in time. I think for most Iraqis, they're really just trying to get through the day, and they can't really see a better life for themselves because life right now is just so difficult. I mean, I was speaking with a few Iraqis earlier about this very fact, and they said that the only thing that they really wanted, and their standards have completely changed. Originally, they wanted the freedom that America promised them when it invaded Iraq. What they want now, put simply, is just a little bit of power and a little bit of security, and they don't even think that they're going to be able to get that.
All right, Arwa, thank you so much, General. And also you, Lawrence, thanks for stopping in here.
Thanks for having me.
Complex situation, not going to be easily sorted out soon. As complex, however, as the politics in Iraq are, it's nothing compared to figuring out who are our friends in the broader Middle East. Take Saudi Arabia. They're essential to almost every U.S. policy in that region, but are they working with us or against us?